This is Mr. Bill. It's an honor to have you here. We're going to talk about the Pawnee today. I know. The history books don't give a very good light of the Pawnee, almost a second-class citizen in the Native American lore, if you will. But there's more there than you might think. You see, the Pawnee at one time had most of 25,000 people in Kansas and Nebraska area. They claimed that land for themselves, and they fought viciously all and any tribes coming in on them, including the white man. Absolutely. However, in 1803, the United States purchased this land from France. They claimed it. We bought it from them. Didn't matter that the Spanish, they claimed this land too. But we made the purchase, and the next year in 1804 they sent Lewis and Clark across and up the Missouri to check out what they had bought. You bet. The Spanish, however, sent troops from Texas up here to capture or kill the expedition of Lewis and Clark. They weren't that far from McCook when they coming north, and the Pawnee jumped them. And they bloodied their nose good enough that the Spanish headed home. They went back, and Lewis and Clark was successful with their expedition. The Pawnee helped in no small part make that work. But there's very little that you'll ever see in the history books about the Pawnee, except that they got their butts kicked over here at Massacre Canyon. You bet. Oh, it was a setup, no question. The government and the cattlemen wanted this area, 10,000 square miles. They wanted that for cattle ranching. And they wanted to get rid of the Indians without a costly war. So if they could get the Sioux and the Pawnee to fight, so much the better. And that's what they did. They told the Pawnee, we'll let you go on one last buffalo hunt. And they told the Sioux where they'd be. Well, the Pawnee, thinking it was their last buffalo hunt, they got together with most 800 people, 300 braves, and 500 women and children. And they were hunting buffalo in the old way with the arrow. The Sioux had plenty of rifles, and they had 1,500 horsemen coming at them. 5-to-1 odds against their men. And the Pawnee held out. Oh, they got beat up and a lot of people got killed, but they survived. They didn't get wiped out. That speaks high of them, even though they lost that battle, without question. Without question. Are there any other stories that I know about the Pawnee? Okay, a Pawnee story from southwest Nebraska. Well, a white man had started drifting into southwest Nebraska, and there was a few settlements, not quite towns by any means, but settlements around near McCook. One of them had 6 cowboys come into town, full of vinegar and definitely drinking, and looking for maybe a wee bit of trouble. With that in mind, 2 Indian boys, young men, come into town. There they took and had their 2 horses and 2 other horses. They were going to get supplies and pack them on those other 2 horses and take them back to their people. Okay. Cowboys decided those 4 horses should be theirs. The Indians, boys, they did their best to try to stop them. One of them finally jumped on his horse and headed out of town as fast as he could go, and the one that stayed was getting beat up because he wouldn't let his horse go. He wouldn't let it be done. The cowboys, they decided because he had been belligerent, he should be hung. I said hung. So they got a rope and was going to hang him. The more or less a constable, not really big enough for a town sheriff, but a guy that kind of did that type of thing, he came up and was trying to talk him out of it. So while they was arguing about what to do about that, that boy had got back, and they were just a couple of miles outside of town, moving by, and they didn't know it, was about 300, I said 300 Pawnee braves. And they were heading on down south into Kansas looking for buffalo. As they got word, they turned and headed into town. and they were ready for trouble. As they swarmed through the town, what few buildings there was no question that the cowboys and the rest of the people there knew that any kind of resistance, they'd all be killed. They'd all be killed. Without question, they immediately took the rope off the Indian boy's neck and gave him back his horse, but it was a little late. The Pawnee braves, they roughed those 6 cowboys up something terrible. And I'm telling you, they beat them into the ground in a lot of ways that you wouldn't want to be beaten. They then took their 6 horses, and not a single person said a word against them as they headed out of town. The wisdom those cowboys got, and what you might want to think about, is if you're going to give somebody a hard time just because they're another race and because there's less of them than you, and you think you can easily just bully them, you might want to look over the horizon just a little bit, or maybe look behind you to make sure they don't have some people that can just simply eat you alive. Absolutely. Just tear you to pieces. Without question and without mercy. McCook's Mr. Bill. You have a good day.